We've all been enjoying and celebrating Tesla's recent stock price rises. It's been an incredible run, to put it mildly, but it looks to be losing steam for the time being, probably as a result of the Federal Reserve's continued threat to raise interest rates. Despite this, we did see huge gains, and a pullback that was mostly expected was caused by macroeconomic factors. Although Tesla's volatility has taken a hit recently, it seems that most of its investors still believe the company's stock will reach $300 this year. Most of them also believe that the stock will likely hold these levels for the next few months, since the launch of Cybertruck is quickly approaching. So I doubt many of them will want to sell before then. About a month's time there will be an earnings call, and I would pretty much guarantee that there are a few questions asked about the Cybertruck, most likely one that will require Elon giving us an estimate as to whether we are still on target for the Cybertruck delivery event, which many are saying as early as September due to deliveries supposedly at the end of Q3. This will be the event where we finally get the latest cyber attack specifications and update from almost 4 years ago, now since the initial reveal, and perhaps Elon may end up having to push it back to October or even November. But I would say as long as it's this year, we are good. It's more about the fact that it will actually happen. If Elon actually said something like October the 21st will be the Cybertruck delivery event, then that would be amazing to actually get a date finally locked in, and the stock would run possibly all the way to the event. It might pull back a bit after, judging by the past mentor of many Tesla traders by the rumor sell the news. But I wouldn't have thought we'd see a massive drop in the stock price. The stock could still keep running with the market and see more Cybertruck progress along with other tester events coming up. The stock has been sitting around 250 to 300 for a large part of the last 2.5 years. This might be where the stock naturally sits, although since that time the company has grown a lot, producing about 2.5 as many vehicles and 2 more enormous factories. We've planned to build an even bigger one and mention another location at the end of the year and finally expand Giga Nevada. All that probably doubling the existing factory space that is currently and almost tripling the current run rates. I've moved past the idea that nothing surprises me, especially when it comes to Tesla. If everything goes according to plan and Tesla meets all of her goals, there's a good probability that we'll see a new all-time high this year. The question is, though, whether or not that high will last. Although it's great that FSD is moving along so well, no one knows when it will be ready, and even the bulls have differing views. Some of the bulls are extremely bullish, which I believe is almost delusional given how successful Tesla could really be. Eventually, investors will also want to see some growth in the earnings. I believe that Tesla's growth will take time. But there's a proverb that goes, you overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in a decade. Since we are only halfway through this decade, and given what Tesla has accomplished in the second half, I believe that Tesla will grow significantly as long as compounding, not to mention exponentials, continues to operate. There will be a bit of a lull next year, at least in the financials, I believe. Based on the current run rate and progress of the Model 3 and Y with the cyber attack ramped up to volume production and energy ramped up, we're probably not far off $20 billion in earnings at a guess. This isn't going to be until the end of 2024 though. For the remainder of 2024, Cybertruck will reduce earnings due to the running costs. And if Mexico is completing that this year, will also be a significant cash drain in the following year. The stock will be reliant on how well the Mexico build and the Cybertruck ramp-up go, at least based on current information. Financials won't matter as much because the market is likely anticipating some rate cuts, which could even result in higher margins. Additionally, there is the 7.5 tax credit, which becomes a rebate at the point of sale in the US next year, and will likely have a greater impact on demand. Disclosure is always made under the assumption that there won't be any black swan events or financial meltdowns that negatively impact the economy. How about reaching 500? Does it seem doable? That would imply that Tesla would only need to generate $30 billion in earnings at a PE ratio of just 50, and as we previously mentioned, Tesla wouldn't be far off $20 billion by the end of next year if we completely exclude Mexico, which could very well contribute a further $10 billion in earnings eventually and another $10 billion after its expansion. I'm also not including FSD. Finally, that would imply a market cap of roughly $1.5 trillion, only 20% higher than the all-time high. However, I believe that some Tesla investors are being very conceited and are even making fun of others like Buffett and Munger for not owning Tesla. Many of Berkshire Hathaway's best investments are those that they choose not to make, such as avoiding the dot-com bubble. The company has its own approach that has proven to be extremely successful in the past. Yes, Berkshire Hathaway values putting money into Tesla is not a cheap stock at all. Tesla has a P/P ratio of 75 and Apple's is 30, but Warren was buying the latter in December, when it was about 20 because that is their strategy. If Tesla dropped to 20, they might have given it some thought, but they won't because it's a high-growth tech stock and not value stock. Other investors believe that autonomous cars will be available by the end of the year, so I believe that investors are getting a little ahead of themselves. Increasing vehicle manufacturing takes time, particularly for EVs. As for FSD, I'll take a wild guess and say that it won't be ready this year either. Investors are starting to believe more in what Tesla can accomplish, and as long as FSD and potentially rubber taxes continue to gain traction, the PE ratio may rise. The Cybertruck launch will only serve to boost this same confidence. The market hardly prices in any of Elon's FSD estimates anymore, knowing that Tesla is the company that is moving the fastest and making the greatest progress. It is worth a fortune to whoever gets there first, and Tesla will be the first to do so, creating a monopoly where no other auto OEM will be able to compete and every other automaker will have to license testers. However, Elon hasn't set the bar as high for us as he did in the past, with the 100 gig or hours of 4680 production we were supposed to see last year, or FSD safer than a human. Tech, I'm not sure how anyone else could possibly compete or collect enough information to get a good idea. As long as Cybertruck doesn't cause too many production problems, which is to be expected, there won't be a new production abyss. Furthermore, as long as there is a discernible improvement in progress, the stock should hold or even rise, with the exception of Mexico. Tesla has proven that they are skilled in constructing factories. Texas rose in an absurdly short period of time, and while Berlin did drag a bit at the finish, that was mainly due to the excessive red tape in Germany. Rumor has it that Mexico will rise more quickly than Shanghai. Tesla may be the first to lower prices, putting pressure on other car makers. The market by itself has enormous potential. According to Wood, Tesla wants to lower costs and boost the number of electric vehicles on the road. CEO Evan May is expected to announce a significant price cut for future EVs at the upcoming Investor Day, pointing out that gas-powered vehicles did well at that price point and predicting that EVs will account for 75% of the market as it grows from 8.5 million in 2022 to 60 million. In summary, under this extremely conservative framework of 600 price per share valuation. Yes, Elon did indicate he thought 4680s would ramp up next year too, but I don't think many people recall that or even bring it up frequently. As a result, I don't think the stock will be impacted if we don't make much progress there the following year. If we do, though, acquire a larger amplifier, that will look fantastic. Although there are 3 more lines in Texas to start operating, which should add up, the big shiny Cyberjack will probably garner more attention anyhow. I believe that the 2.4 million units produced this year may be the maximum amount they reach next year, which is still a 30% increase from this year. Depending on where we end up, investors will likely be understanding of that, and the focus will shift to how many units Mexico can produce.